Thought I'd do a quick video going over some macro planning, looking at a year calendar and how to best plan your year for kind of long-term progress. So there's a few kind of caveats with this, in that if you are a higher level lifter, the macro plan is a lot more important, and there may be meets which are purely just stepping stones and you never really fully max out of them and you go 9 for 9, and it's just a stepping stone onto the next one, so you keep fresh and you can come back to training and keep the wheels turning as soon as possible. A newer lifter, a beginner lifter, a novice lifter can afford to test more regularly and see good benefits from doing so. The stronger you get, the less frequently you'll be able to test and put sort of weight on the bar, and the smaller obviously the PBs will be as well. And the more important it is to have a longer term picture where you're just sort of breezing through meetings with trying to go 9 for 9 and you're not really going all out. This is helpful for longer term progression and most importantly staying healthy. If you've got really important meets back to back to back and you're killing yourself in the gym to try and get a PB and really reaching for a PB every single meet back to back, it can really cause a lot of stress in the body and mind, and it's not pleasurable. It can make it taxing mentally, constantly having to load up really heavy percentages. You finish a meet and then it's straight away you're building again, right, competition squat, 5s, It's quite nice sometimes to have that little foot off the gas moment where you can do some sets of 6 to 10 or something horrible on squats, or perhaps it's even a variation exercise, and that's mentally just so good for you long term, because believe it or not, the longer you do this, it becomes harder and harder mentally to keep going, keep loading up those percentages, and the stronger you get, the longer everything takes. And sometimes it's just nice to get in and out, especially with male lifters that end up getting pretty strong, is like when sessions are constantly over, let's just for example say 220 kilos for most sessions, loading that up nearly, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 times a week potentially, depending on what you're doing, it's very stressful mentally. It takes so long to warm up, so long to do everything, so it's quite nice to have those high variation periods, high rep range periods, just keep the mind fresh, and that's kind of an off-season block. So obviously, well not obviously, but your training will follow a phasing structure, in the sense that it will usually go from higher reps to lower reps over the course of a training cycle, but also the macro picture is somewhat phasic as well, and you can have times that are more concentrated in more of a hypertrophy rep range, in order to focus. Maybe, for example, take myself, potentially I've got this Western European in Luxembourg, that is in about 6 weeks, so it's far more than that, but potentially got that, and then I believe 6 weeks or so after that, it's not long at all, we're straight into the British Classic for the men's, and that for me is going to be a stepping stone. So even though obviously the British, the British Champions is the biggest meet in the calendar, for obviously English or British meets, for me that's going to be a stepping stone, and the reason is because I'll have this Luxembourg meet before that, and that's a priority because it's an international, and then the British is going to be a stepping stone for me, because I know that there's another few guys that are going to be doing awesome, and with injuries and stuff I had this year, like I'm not going to bring probably my best package. Probably, who knows? Injuries are a hard one to figure out, and I've been injured now for about 8 months, and slowly I'm coming back now and hitting some 80% weights for triples. So it's a long road, and I don't know because bench's feeling shit. But anyway, so I don't know what's going to happen in the British, but I know I'm not going to win. That's for sure. So for me, it's just a stepping stone meet. I'm not going to win that, not for years, not until Stephen Manuel decides to have a day off. But yeah, that's a long way off. So for me, there's no point doing the Luxembourg meet, turning it around straight away, be cranking up the numbers in the gym, really high percentages, high risk of injury, just to go and do what at the British 6 weeks later. I want to do the British. I want to use it to qualify for things, potentially put a better performance in than the Luxembourg meet, but there's no benefit to me absolutely killing myself in the gym to try and outdo that Luxembourg performance, touch wood, because the risk of injury is too high. And as soon as the British is done, I'm going to use that time to the end of the year to have a kind of more off-season period where I'm going to focus on some of my weaknesses, and the rep ranges on the whole are going to be a little bit higher, building a lot of muscle mass in the areas of weakness that I have, and I will still taper the reps, and I will still be getting strong, but I won't really have anything in the crosshairs meet-wise until potentially January, maybe for the British bench. There's not really going to be a lot on in the early part of the year. Most people's calendars will look something like a qualifier in the first 1 to 3 months of the year, and then it will follow with the All Englands, which is obviously the best in England, the English Championships. So obviously that's the nationals. That's just for all the people that in England that can qualify using the qualification total for that. That's a separate total, and usually a little bit lower than the British qualifier. So that meet gets filled up really fast. However, this year I believe there's going to be a difference. It's not actually been announced yet, but as of next year, from what someone told me that's kind of high up in GPF, we're going to be looking at a nomination style qualification process. So it won't be first come first serve anymore, which is fantastic, and there'll be no more going to meets just to qualify, which I'm not a fan of, and people are going to put in their best totals, and then whoever the best top 13, 14 or whatever it may be will go to the All Englands. So the All Englands will mean a bit more, there'll be a lot more competition there, and that's going to be a really great step for English powerlifting, British powerlifting, is making it more competitive, and that will make the divisionals more competitive as well, because people will actually be trying. I hate when you go to divisionals and people are just doing ridiculous weights, so light for them, and they're like, yeah, just qualifying today. It's like you've missed the fucking point of powerlifting. Anyway, that's another conversation. So that's going to be good, and anyway, so that will be how it's selected going forward. Obviously you have to put your name in the hat if you do not get it. If you're pushed out, if someone comes in that's better than you and you get pushed out, you do not have to pay. So that's going to be the structure for the All England and the British, I believe, going through next year. At least that's what things are looking like anyway. So after the All England, usually that's in May or August. Recently it was in May, so give more time for people to prep for internationals and the British. So the calendar has changed this year to help people have more time in between meets. Because before there was a quick turnaround in August to do the British, and there was other internationals around that time. It made it very difficult. The All England is less competitive than the British, not only just because it's just the best in England, not the best in Britain, but a lot of people usually have just come back from Worlds or are doing Worlds and just come back from Europeans, and for them it doesn't really make sense to do the All England, except for maybe as a stepping stone, mate, using it as a testing day potentially. The All England every other year is used for the qualification of the Commonwealth. So this year, Phoenix, we had, I think it was like 5 or 6 people qualify for the Commonwealth, which is in South Africa this year. The All England bench is also a qualifier, which we had, I think, 5 of us qualify for that as well. I think there's 4 or 5 people actually going out of the Phoenix, which is awesome. A few of those I coach directly, and the others just train with them for now. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of how that works. And then later in the year, you've got the British, which the dates obviously vary. The women's has obviously just been, the men's is later in the year, and the juniors is even later in the year. So that's kind of how the year could look for you, is you think qualifying the first 3 months, All England 2-3 months later, and the British could be 2 months after that, and then you could have another meet at the end of the year. But often there isn't really any divisionals at the end of the year because there's nothing to qualify for until the All England. So that's why there's a lack of meets at the end of the year, and that is actually something I'm trying to work on myself going forward with the farm here, is to get to a point where I can run meets again. I've run 3 or 4 meets now, and I want to run some more for the GPF, and start to help powerlifting in London a bit more, because there's nothing, especially in the later part of the year. If I don't do GPF, I'll just run a backyard meet again, because you make 0 money out of GPF meets and there's no need to qualify at the end of the year. So we'll see, but either way, I'd like to get something sorted out for people to be able to test in the later part of the year. Testing is obviously very important. Without testing, people can very, very easily kid themselves with progress, and go for ages and ages without testing, and they think, oh well, yeah, I'm probably stronger. And then, a test it makes you realise, has your training worked, yes or no? And then with every single meet you do, you always learn something. That's why it's so important to do meets, good or bad. You come away from it always learning something. Women's British just went, and I'm sure everyone came away learning something to work on, something to go forward with. So that's kind of how people's years can look. So you end up kind of after the British, you can have kind of a longer period where you can call it your off season, and the training will be a little bit less specific. I think with some of the girls just finishing the British, some of their training will be a little bit less specific for a while. The reps will be higher. We're going to work on some weaknesses. We're going to change stuff around, and then move forward into next year with like an incredible base built up, and those weaknesses being worked upon in an off season. It's important to keep the off season somewhat specific and not just, leg press and hamstring curl and expect a squat PB and a deadlift PB. But that's kind of where we're at with that. So next year I'll be looking to do maybe the British bench, some sort of qualifier if I need to. Don't know if I need to, probably won't. The All England full power, All England bench. Then if there is international opportunity for me, then potentially that. If not, wait until the British Classic. So that'll be a few meets, a couple of bench meets, and then go from there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And then there'll be parts of the year where I'm really focusing on just building, especially after British. That's going to be my sort of off season. And then once the All England prep starts coming in, that's in season now, and that's when I'm going to be pushing the weight on the bar. But yeah, anyway, give it a shot soon.